Hi there, I'm Jason Arp. I'm the City Councilman for the 4th District of Fort Wayne. And today we're going to talk a little bit about just the individual freedoms. I thought we would take a break from some of the economic development stuff we've been talking about. I got a lot of videos that have a lot of numbers and things related to economic development and some of the bureaucracy related to that. So decided to go with a little bit of a change of pace and talk about one of the things that's very important to me personally is just individual freedoms. And we've had a few opportunities on City Council, believe it or not, to discuss some of these issues. And so I took 5 separate votes that we've had, and I thought I'd very quickly run through these. One, back in my first year on council, I had an opportunity to introduce an ordinance that would basically take the word firearms out of all the city codes. We had laws on the books that allowed for the ticketing and charging of people for having firearms on city property that was in contravention to state law. Actually, there was a case where a person reached out to me to let me know that that had happened to them. So I put forward an ordinance to get that changed, and we were able to strike firearms from the city codes. And now you can carry a firearm legally if you have a permit in the state of Indiana to carry a firearm on anywhere, then you can carry it in the parks or those places in the city of Fort Wayne. So that was a tight vote. I got beat up pretty bad on that in the press. There's a lot of people that don't like guns, but that passed 6-3, thankfully. All right, second issue. Unfortunately, this one did not pass, but I had constituents reach out to me and let me know that they had had some chickens taken from them by animal control. They had chickens on that site for years, over a decade, but they happened to be doing some work on some fence, and so they had a portion of it down, and so someone could see in their yard from the road. And so animal control took their chickens. So I put forward an ordinance that would basically mirror the ordinance that had passed in Valparaiso the previous summer, allow people to have 5 chickens. Give a little bit of parameters about what the housing for the coop would look like. Lots of cities throughout the country allow chickens, small towns like Chicago, New York. In fact, you can have a chicken in Brooklyn, New York, but you can't have one in the city of Fort Wayne. It's kind of obnoxious. In Indianapolis, you can have 12 chickens. So the ordinance I was trying to put through is going to be kind of a step in that direction. We're going to allow for 5 hens, no roosters. Again, why not allow people to have their individual freedoms if they're not harming anyone else? Third one, the chronic problem properties ordinance is one that I voted against. It actually, in a different fashion passed. They had to strip out the individual residence portion, but basically this would allow you to be fined by the city without actually having broken any laws. If you had more than 12 calls to the city on your property, it could be police, fire, EMS, anything within a 90-day period, then that would be considered a chronic problem property. And it kind of escapes the whole idea of due process. I mean, if you're not convicted of anything, who cares how many phone calls that you have on your property if you haven't done anything that's actually wrong? You shouldn't be subject to fines. Number 4, this is one that a lot of people were not particularly happy with my position on it, but I don't think that it's the business of the city council to get involved in regulating what goes on within a private business's 4 walls, as long as they're not breaking any state laws, or they're not doing any harm to anyone. And someone can argue, some moralistic questions about it, but if we live in a free country, sometimes you're gonna have to tolerate things that you may not like, and you may not like strip clubs. But as long as it's within their 4 walls and they're not out in the street with it, then it's actually a safer place. If it's legal and we know it's there, it's a much better protection for those people that are involved in that than if the performers were having to go into kind of off the books clubs where there's not the protection of law. So again, we were able to defeat a ordinance that more or less would have closed them down. It would have ended any nude dancing after midnight, and let's face it, the hours that those clubs operate are their heaviest hours, from 12 to 3 is what the club operators tell us. So anyway, moving along, the fifth one here was there was a house in my district in which the homeowner had voluntarily placed his house in a historic preservation district. He thought that would be beneficial to preventing, I think, the widening of the Ardmore corridor almost a decade ago. That didn't prevent that from happening, and so he decided that he wanted to make some modifications to his home that he was prevented from doing because it's in a historic preservation district, a single property one that he created and had created, but he had to go through the city in order to do it. Well, as he's aged and some other things have happened, he wants to make it handicapped accessible. Well, it's a Frank Lloyd Wright home. It's a beautiful house, but he owns it. This gentleman owns it, and he should be able to take it out of that district if he wants to. At least that's my opinion. Unfortunately, I was in the minority on that. 6 councilmen thought that this gentleman should not have the right to modify his property to decide whether or not it was going to be in this district or not. So, we don't win them all, but I do think that it's my responsibility to fight to defend the Constitution of the United States. I took an oath to do that, to fight for equal protection under the laws and our individual freedoms. So anyway, I thought this would be somewhat of a break from our normal discussions on economic development and some of the minutia of that. Maybe at some point we'll do a little bit more detail on a few of these. All right. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoy what we're talking about, subscribe, share the videos, and check out jasonarp.com for more information. Thank you.